Hello everyone! Today I want to focus on the new upcoming 4-star character Thoma and whether he will be worth your wishes or not. As always, if you like him for aesthetical reasons, go for it, but I will primarily focus on his potential in combat. And since he is a new character, I will go over his skills first and then give you my thoughts on them after, and in the second half of the video I will go over possible team compositions. And with this being said, let's get started. His normal attacks aren't too interesting, so let's start getting into his elemental skill. Blazing Blessing. Thoma vaults forward with his pole arm and delivers a flame-filled flying kick that deals AoE pyro damage while also summoning a defensive Blazing Barrier. At the moment of casting, Thoma's elemental skill applies pyro to himself. The damage absorption of the Blazing Barrier scales off Thoma's max HP. The Blazing Barrier has the following traits. Absorbs pyro damage 250% more effectively. When a new Blazing Barrier is obtained, the remaining damage absorption of an existing Blazing Barrier will stack and its duration will be refreshed. The maximum damage absorption of the Blazing Barrier will not exceed a certain percentage of Thoma's max HP. So, a few things to mention. First of all, applying pyro to yourself can be very helpful, especially in Abyss where you can cleanse off the cryo or hydro debuffs. And he obviously has some HP scaling on this skill. Unfortunately, this line will probably end up being entirely cosmetic because, as you will see once we move on to the Elemental Burst skill, his damage has no HP scaling whatsoever. Which will probably mean that you will just build him like a regular sub DPS with attack percentage stats. Which means this skill just ends up being a little cleanse and a shield that's probably not too sizable. And historically, Genshin Impact players don't care too much about defensive utility. As you remember probably with the Zhongli pre-buff, he just had his shield, and it was actually pretty big and they still needed to buff him and give him the extra resistance shred. So this skill isn't anything too special, but the big thing is coming up with his Elemental Burst skill. So Crimson Oyoiroi, I hope I said it right. Thoma spins his polearm, slicing at his foes with roaring flames that deal AoE pyro damage and weaving themselves into a Scorching Oyoiroi. Scorching Oyoiroi. While Scorching Oyoiroi is in effect, the active character's normal attack will trigger Fiery Collapse, dealing AoE pyro damage and summoning a Blazing Barrier. Fiery Collapse can be triggered once every 1 second. Except for the amount of damage they can absorb, the Blazing Barriers created in this way are identical to those created by Thoma's elemental skill, Blazing Blessing. And these bullet points are the exact same as for the elemental skill, and if Thoma falls, the effect of the Scorching Oyoiroi will be cleared. So, like I mentioned earlier, nothing here indicates that Fiery Collapse damage scales off HP, which is kind of sad, I guess, because his HP scaling on his shields kind of goes to waste with this, because you will just end up building him like in a regular attack scaling sub DPS. Aside from this, it triggers every 1 second, which is actually pretty good. I think it's the highest pyro application for an off-field sub DPS in the game, which means he is probably your preferred choice if you want to trigger elemental reactions involving pyro. So if you like to play your mail shot Ganyu, Thoma is probably the best way to enable this. And now let's get into possible team compositions. Your first slot obviously always will go to Thoma, and in the second slot I just like to get the healer out of the way first. Since most people just prefer to play Bennett, and you also get your Pyro Resonance between these two characters activated, which is another added benefit, but in theory any healer works. As your first support aside from Thoma, I like to pick something that lowers resistances, because Thoma primarily deals pyro damage when he is used as a support, and your main damage dealer that you will pick will probably deal a lot of elemental damage as well to trigger reactions with Thoma's pyro damage. So you will get a lot of value out of Viridescent set users like Kazuha, Venti, Sucrose, or just Zhongli with his elemental skill. And now for your main DPS options. The easiest comp to play is probably just a meld comp with, for example, Ganyu, Ayaka, or Shonyun. I guess Aloy would also work. I gotta admit I haven't familiarized myself too much with her, but I can't imagine her being a bad choice. And the more complex team compositions to play would be quick swap teams, for example with Raiden Shogun as a Overload team, or a Vaporized team with Child. In theory, you could also pick Kokomi. I know a lot of people don't have a very high opinion on her, but if you have her, you could pick her as your healer and vaporize with her, and pick another support to fill the last spot. If you picked Zhongli earlier, you could pick a Viridescent set character to lower resistances further, or you could just pick another sub DPS to add a little bit more damage. Like Beidou, you also get electro reactions, same for Fischl. You get another attack buff with Kujusara, or you get Pyro Resonance and more Pyro application with Zhongling. And the last thing to mention is, if you like to play Jean or Sayu as your healer, you obviously don't need to pick another Anemo support for the Viridescent set effect. You could still pick Zhongli to further decrease the resistances, but if you don't want to or don't have him, you could just pick a second sub DPS. Like Jingzhou or Mona for Hydro application, Beidou or Fischl for Electro application, Sarah is a good alternative to Bennett for attack buffing, and you could pick Zhongling for the Pyro Resonance and more Pyro application. So will Thoma be worth your wishes? First of all, I think he will be an amazing support, because he's basically Jingzhou as a Pyro character, and we all know how strong Jingzhou is. Both of them perform coordinated attacks with your active character while their elemental burst skill is active, and both of them have some defensive utility on their elemental skills. Jingzhou has damage reduction and healing, and Thoma has damage absorption. So if you get Thoma, I think he is a must build and guaranteed to be amazing. But unfortunately, Thoma is a 4-star character, which means there is no pity system in place to guarantee you this character. And since you are watching this video, you're probably not too keen on the idea of getting Hu Tao, because otherwise you would be wishing anyway. So if your pity is completely fresh and you don't mind getting Hu Tao, you could do like 10, maybe 20, maybe even 30 wishes, and you tried your luck with Thoma. If you're like halfway there, like 50 wishes in, that's already worth 8,000 Primo Gems. So you can look at the shop and see how much currency this is worth. So what I essentially try to say is, if you reset your pity for a Hu Tao, a character that you don't want, you are actively wasting money. So in my opinion, if you don't want Hu Tao, I think you have to wait for another opportunity to get Thoma and skip. Alright, we made it to the end. I actually already closed the website before I realized I still have to do an outro for this video, just in case you're wondering why you're staring at my desktop. Anyway, I hope this helped you decide whether you want to wish on this banner or not. I personally strongly tend towards skipping, because I already have Hu Tao and I am not very interested in her constellations. And yeah, stay tuned for more videos in the future. Until then, have fun in Teyvat and bye bye.